What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadski, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video, and today we're back with some more Kizuna Clash preparation stuff, and we're going to be having a look today at the Super Boss this time around, as, you know, it's going to be a relatively tricky boss. However, the thing is you only have to build for two separate teams. There's only two different variations you have to build for compared to the normal 10-star difficulty, where there is three separate teams that you got to build for, so it is slightly easier in that regard, but the actual gimmick are a little tricky to get around whilst also trying to deal, you know, billions upon billions of damage. So what I have in today's video is one team against both variations, just to see what I could come up with. And of course, as things progress, as the Super Boss gets underway, I'm sure a lot more teams with a lot better team builds in mind are going to come out. And of course, I want to bring you guys some updates and different videos once we're able to kind of, you know, come up with some other different teams that will be able to get the job done. Before we get into it though, you know, the Super Boss is going to be against this Gecko Moria, the Super Evolved form. I talked about it briefly in the other preparation video. Make sure to get him done because he's actually super strong. I think he's a really good free-to-play unit that you definitely want to get your hands on. So without further ado, let's jump into the Super Boss teams. Alright, so jumping into things, this is going to be the first team versus the quick variation boss. This one I think is going to be the trickier of the two bosses to deal with. So in terms of what we have to deal with here, the cool thing is that there's cooldown for all units. So you don't have to build with a specific class or color in mind. You can just build whatever you want. Everyone gets cooldown, so that's obviously a huge positive. You move into Battle 2 though, that's where you get Chain Attack down, Block Slots, Fear, and Special Bind. So the way that we're dealing with this stage is we want to obviously have a way to get around block slots, and we want some type of damage on this stage so that we can actually get through it, because if you don't get through it, you just get a lot of nasty debuffs. So the way that this team is functioning is it is going to be using the new 10th anniversary Ace as our friend captain because he's just a phenomenal unit. But for this team, what we'll do is we'll use the super switch of Zoro Sanji, and then use their EX Super as well on this stage, just to generate even more tap timing chain. And then obviously the super switch gives a full board of tandem slots, gives an attack boost or boost, so you get a lot of good damage. As well as we want to use Luffy special. This Luffy is Limit Break expanded. He's an older rare recruit character, but he's a Luffy, so he activates a lot of the units for EX Supers on this team, but also because his special ability generates some slots, which is whatever, but it gets around Special Bind whilst also resisting it with the Fear, so that's obviously a very big deal. And that's how we get through. We just use Luffy special after using Zoro Sanji's switch and their EX Super. And then we move into the final stage. So the final stage has quite a lot of gimmicks. There's like Damage Threshold, there is Rainbow Shield. The character transforms into super quick, but basically if you don't kill the boss in one turn, he transforms into a strength unit, which is kind of fascinating. So you ideally want to just do as much damage as you possibly can on that first burst, honestly. There's going to be Ship Bind, which unfortunately this team doesn't have a way to get around Ship Bind. The only way to get around it is if you have a unit on your crew with that potential ability to remove it by 3 turns, which is pretty difficult because there's not a lot of good units that remove Ship Bind. Obviously the new Frankie, I believe, that just came out, I believe he does have Ship Bind potential ability, so that would be probably one of the more ideal units to use for this particular stage. Plus his special ability deals with, you know, getting around the defensive effects, so it does feel like the Frankie is kind of the unit that they want you to use for this fight. Remember, we're using Ace as our friend captain, so Ace's special will get rid of the paralysis for us, which is fantastic. But another thing as well is that we do have some pretty good supports on this team, right? Like we've got this Bonnie support attached to Luffy, which says that when we're inflicted with paralysis, then the support will actually inflict a 1.75 increased damage taken conditional boost for our side of the field. And by using Yamato captain, Yamato special does actually inflict increased damage taken, and because we have Nico Robin, we're able to get a double stacking conditional boost with those two characters. So that's really good. Zoro Sanji, of course, with all of their amazing buffs. We have Yamato for massive color affinity boost and buffing the final tap. Ideally, if you have Yamato with more investments, with more levels of final tap, that's going to be massive, because I think she is one of the hardest, if not the hardest hitting unit in the game with her final tap, when you have all of the buffs of, adding, the percentages on top of final tap bonuses, plus her final tap just does crazy damage just by itself, even without adding damage through her percentage increases. And then we do have the Memories Usopp on the team. So Memories Usopp isn't really needed. The main reason why he is here is because he can inflict set target status, which gives double damage for your shooter and free spirit units, and because we have Zoro Sanji, everyone becomes a free spirit character. So it's a really good combination you can use with this. Of course, he's not needed, so you'd replace him with something else, but it's just an idea that you could potentially abuse in order to get even more damage output. And the good thing about Usopp is he actually is one of the units that you can use to trigger conditions for EX supers, rush, super types, etc. So just a really nice unit to add to the squad. So with this, we're going to have like attack boost, orb boost, conditional boost, color affinity, massive chain increases, and then obviously double stacking conditional boosts. But the only real downside to this team is that obviously the ship is going to be ship binded, so you won't get the bonuses from the ship. So I think despite that, it's still going to do very good damage, but this is the team that I've come up initially with versus the quick super boss, and I do think it's going to do a pretty good amount of damage. And as I said, Usopp isn't required. You can replace him with essentially whatever you want. So jumping over to the next super boss, which is versus Int. Now for this team, we want to be using the brand new Memories of Straw Hat's Brook as our friend captain. Remember, in this Kizuna clash, that Brook is going to be super effective against all types, so that's going to give you even more damage output with that. Brook is just a great unit for this because they actually inflict that silence debuff where you can't swipe on your units, and Brook is like the only unit you can really use in order to get around that. So by using Brook as our friend captain, we can kind of abuse his mechanics. Now, the other good thing about using Brook is that we can use his special on stage 1, which gives an orb boost for 2 turns, but with his captain ability, he extends orb boost by 1, so Brook's orb boost will actually be available in stage 2. When we move into stage 2, all of your crewmates are binded by 8 turns, and you also get a special bind for all of your characters as well, which is just really nasty. So the only really good ways to get around that is to have some type of support to get around special bind, or by using Nami Carrot. The thing is because your characters are binded and then they are inflicted with special bind, their crewmate effects will not activate in order to get around that special bind when you originally remove the bind off of them. So the good thing about Nami Carrot is their switch effect does remove special bind on themselves completely, so if you have some type of way to get around it that way, or by using supports, or having a captain that can deal with special bind as well, there's a couple of different ways you can get around that. So by using Brook's special on stage 1, we'll have the orb boost for stage 2 still, and also we'll have Brook's super type. Brook's super type does remove bind and with the sockets, and he also gives a chain boost as well. So we'll have Brook's chain boost, Brook's orb boost, and that should give us more than enough damage to kill stage 2. And then when we reach the final stage, a lot of gimmicks once again, including paralysis and damage nullification, which is why I wanted to have Ace on the crew from the 10th anniversary. Ace removes 3 turns of nullified damage, and he removes a bunch of paralysis, so he is perfect for this team. The thing is as well, is there is an interrupt on this stage. If you activate an attack boost on this stage, any number of times, so whenever you activate an attack boost, they remove your beneficial effects. So the best way around that is to have a character that has an attack boost that cannot be removed by enemy effects, or by activating it from a super type or a support effect. Those are the only ways to do it, because if you activate it from a special, then they are going to interrupt that. The thing is you can't even use an attack boost on stage 2 and carry it into stage 3, because as soon as you enter the last stage, the enemy removes your beneficial effects. So obviously not really fun to deal with at all. The thing is your bottom row will be inflicted with that silence debuff where you can't interact with them, which is why we also want to be using Brook here. And remember, with Brook's super type, it reduces his own cooldown by 10 turns. So because of using him on stage 1, use his super type on stage 2, by the time we reach the final stage, Brook's special should be ready to activate again, so it enables us to use Brook again to enable our crewmates to be ready to be used. And then we want to be activating specials in certain orders to make sure that we can get the right effects. The thing is as well is that if you activate the super switch of Zoro and Sanji to get the really decent attack and orb boost, when you activate the Gear 5 special, that will actually not interrupt the enemy. I have tested this in a couple of different scenarios. So if you use the super switch of Zoro Sanji and then you use the special ability of Luffy, that will not trigger the interrupt. However, you want to be using Shanks and then using your Ace special, so that you can get, you know, the full board of slots, and then you get the color affinity from Shanks. Use Ace's special, which amplifies that color affinity, so you end up getting a 6 times color affinity boost, which is wild. And then the last thing you want to do is use the switch effect of Zoro and Sanji, so you have the full board of tandem slots, because the enemy does have an effect where if you attack with strength, dex, quick, int, Wano, or recovery slots, you get 70% damage reduced. So you want to hit him with psi slots, or you want to hit him with tandem slots. So those are the best ways to deal with that. So Zoro Sanji generating a full board of tandem is fantastic for this particular stage. Now with this as well, we're going to be using the rush of Gear 5 Luffy to finish off the enemy. Because the enemy is int, we don't actually have to worry about, you know, building for one of every color for Luffy, so he has super effective damage. He's innately going to be doing super effective damage against the int boss anyways. So I do think this team is going to go absolutely crazy. Really good attack and orb boost, massive color affinity boost. You're going to have the ignited conditional boost from Ace, because remember, we need to use Brook's special in order to unsilence our units. Brook gives an orb boost, so when we use our Ace special, we actually get his ignited conditional boost instead. Now, another thing is we do have the key support attached to Kara and Wanda. Kara and Nami, should I say, which is the Int Mihawk effect. This support effect says that when we reach the final stage, it does do end of turn damage for 1 turn, which gets around the enemy resilience. If you don't have that, then the ignited effect from Ace will get through the resilience, but the thing is the enemy will probably kill you before that actually happens. So that is something you do have to be very, very cautious of. The thing is, though, if you do have Brook's special activated, that will actually add a resilience to your crew, so that will actually get around it either way. So technically speaking, the support of Mihawk on Carrot Nami is not required, because you can tank the hit from the enemy via Brook's resilience effect added to the crew. So yeah, I think this team is going to be absolutely wild. Can't wait to see some of the damage numbers that this team is able to output. I don't think it's going to be the best team that's going to be out there, but I think it's going to be a really solid one either way. So all in all, that's going to wrap it up from me. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I cannot wait for this Kizuna Clash to get started, get farming on that super boss, and of course pick up the super evolution skulls for Boa Hancock with her super evolution. So hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.